Welcome to The Bridgehead with Jonathon Van Maren, bringing you cutting-edge news, commentary, and interviews from the front lines of the culture wars.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Bridgehead on AM 1380 at 3 o'clock p.m. My name is Jonathon Van Maren, and I'll be your host for the next half hour. Today we're talking to Member of Parliament Cathay Wagantall, because in this new Parliament, under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, she, as a first-time Conservative Member of Parliament, was given the opportunity to put forward a private member's bill. She has recently put forward a bill called Cassie and Molly's Law, and it is based on the case of a woman in Windsor, a pregnant woman who was murdered. She was stabbed to death, and as a result, her preborn baby girl, who the parents had wanted to call Molly, was murdered as well. Now, for those of you who are pro-life, you will know that an Unborn Victims of Crime Act has actually been officially endorsed by the Conservative Party in the past, and that this is the kind of law that has been put forward before. But of course, with MP Wagantall actually getting together with Jeff Durham, the father of Molly, things are getting crazy, of course. So there was commentary from the recent Manning Conference talking about how this law was trying to reopen the abortion debate, which is inevitably the tiresome garbage that gets brought up whenever anyone wants to talk about a baby in the womb at all times. I sometimes wonder if when pro-choice people are hanging out with their friends and their friends say that they're expecting, what their pro-choice friends say. It's like, don't talk about your fetus. Are you trying to reopen the abortion debate at supper or what? Or I wonder if pro-choice people respond really badly to seeing a sonogram or an ultrasound on their friend's fridge. Because the way it seems to me is that whenever this is brought up in the political context, they start shrieking about the abortion debate being reopened. And look, I'm a pro-life activist. If I actually want the abortion debate to be reopened, politically speaking. And I'm actually on the side of Cathay Wagantall when she says this bill does not reopen the abortion debate. It doesn't. I wish it did. But at the end of the day, the pro-choice movement is saying things like, even a discussion of the fact that a fetus exists is going to ensure that constitutional protections for preborn children will inevitably result from this. What I did find ironic, actually, is that Joyce Arthur of the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada basically said that we can't discuss violence towards fetuses because that will involve the abortion debate in some capacity, which is basically admitting up front that abortion is violence towards a fetus. The discussion now, of course, logically speaking, would be, well, what is the fetus? Let's discuss what the fetus is before we can decide whether or not violence towards it, or more accurately, him or her, would be justified. But this is Canada, and it's 2016, so when abortion comes up, we all hide. And when a bill comes up addressing the fact that there are babies being killed in the womb, and those babies were wanted by their mothers, we can't have the discussion because some people are afraid that we'll suddenly start talking about the babies who were in the womb and are being killed by their mothers because their mothers didn't want them. And I can see why they're worried about this. So it's sort of interesting. Molly and Cassie's law is not particularly controversial. Here, I'll read you a piece from the CBC article on it. They said, and I quote, "A Saskatchewan MP has tabled legislation that, if passed, would, quote, make it a separate offense to cause injury or death to a preborn child during the commission of an offense against the child's mother." Conservative Cathay Wagantall introduced the private member's bill Tuesday in the House of Commons in Ottawa. The short name of Bill C-225, an act to amend the criminal code, is Cassie and Molly's Law. It's named after Cassandra Cock, who was 7 months pregnant when she was found dead at the scene of an arson in Windsor, Ontario in 2014. She had planned to name her child Molly. Matthew Brush was charged with first-degree murder. His case is now before the courts. In a news release, Wagantall said she was motivated to introduce the legislation after learning the story of Cassie, Molly, and Jeff Durham from the father-to-be. So that's the story. A member of Parliament hears about a brutal murder of a woman named Cassie and her preborn child Molly. The father of the child and the significant other of Cassie, Jeff Durham, has been waging a campaign far and wide to try and make people wake up and listen to the story. He's been trying to get laws passed that would make it a separate offense to kill a wanted child in the womb. And I noticed that over on the Abortion Rights Coalition of Canada's Facebook page, he has been tangling with pro-choice activists who live in a state of denial and think that the womb is something like the door to Narnia. It's completely imaginary and nothing really exists there. But he's been pointing out to them that there have been many, many women, many instances of people in Canada who were assaulted and their preborn child murdered as well. Of course, as you might expect, the pro-choice crowd here in Canada isn't very open to it because at the end of the day, as I said, they don't want to discuss the fact that preborn children exist at all, and thus children like Molly, who are killed by people like Matthew Brush, must go unnoticed almost permanently. But to talk about this bill, I asked Cathay Wagantall to come onto the show, and she was kind enough to agree to that. So I'd like to present to you this conversation with Member of Parliament from Saskatchewan, Cathay Wagantall, about her new bill, Molly and Cassie's Law. The campaign is called Molly Matters.
And of course, this is a concern. I understand that out in the conversation between pro-life and pro-choice people. And I am pro-life. Jeff is very clearly pro-choice, as was Cassie. So for us to come together on this, it is a situation where there's a gap that applies to a woman whose intention is to have her child. So there's no connection here to abortion at all. We haven't changed the definition of a human being, which is after birth.
Right.
So that in no way is implicated here. And it's a woman's choice, a legal right in Canada to choose to terminate her pregnancy with an abortion. And this in no way impacts that because it applies only to a third party committing a criminal offense against a pregnant woman.
But with the example I just brought up of a young man pushing someone down the stairs with the intent to kill that fetus, the crime here that we're talking about then does circle around motivation, because in the case of an abortion and in this specific action, we would be talking about the same fetus, but what we're trying to criminalize here then is a motive in this bill.
Well, there's an intent to harm the woman and potentially to harm the child, absolutely. And the case here is that he has to already know that she is pregnant. So the intent there is to harm the woman, and if the child is harmed as well, then there would be additional offenses. And they aren't criminal offenses as in murder or manslaughter, that type of thing, because we're not dealing with a human being. So these
legally
would be...
speaking. Right.
Exactly, legally speaking. And that's what my bill is about, is correcting this where, we have this gap where women are not protected in the way they should be protected by our criminal laws. I believe that this would be a huge deterrent to an individual thinking, as the example that you gave, because right now, if he was to assault that woman and she not be harmed, the assault charges would be minimal. And yet she could have lost her child that she was anticipating and looking forward to having as part of a family. So we need to fill this gap and protect all aspects of a woman's choice to have family.
And just for our listeners who aren't aware of the story, because I've been aware of this Molly Matters campaign, because it's happening in Windsor. I have some friends who live in Windsor. So you first heard about the Molly Matters campaign via petition submitted to the House of Commons. When did you first meet Jeff, and maybe tell our listeners what Jeff told you, the story of Molly and Cassie?
Sure. What I did is, it was quite a privilege for me to be polled number 11 for a private member's bill as a new member of Parliament. This is a total new experience to me, and I'm there because I want to do things of significance that make a difference to Canadians. So when I had this opportunity to present a bill, over the Christmas season, I pondered, and I actually called Jeff and talked with him and asked if he would feel comfortable if I was to put this bill forward. And so that's where and when we started our conversation. And since he was in Ottawa when I did present it in the House, and we've talked extensively, And his heart and his intentions are so focused on making sure that this doesn't happen to other people, to have to go through the grief and the suffering as extended family in anticipating that child. And I'm a grandma. I have 9 beautiful grandkids, and this is the kind of horrific thing that you think would never happen in your family, but it does. And that's when he became aware of how this gap existed, and there was no justice there really for this preborn child that they were looking forward to having as their child.
So just so our listeners are clear, what is Molly and Cassie's story? You've named this bill after them, and what is their story?
Well, in Cliff Notes, I'm sure people have been familiar with it or can go online, but it's basically that she was attacked in her home and brutally murdered, and Molly's life was taken as well, and there are charges pending right now. I believe the case is before the court, so there's not a lot that we can say specifically in regard to that. But her life was taken while pregnant, and the individual was aware that she was pregnant, and she lost her child.
And Molly was the daughter that she lost.
And Jeff lost.
What's the reaction to this been so far? I've been keeping track of this in the news, and I believe Chris Selly in the National Post talked about how social conservatives see this as their moment. Katie O'Malley talked about your bill specifically, and sort of said maybe this is an attempt by the pro-life movement to do something, whereas you're saying, look, this is addressing a specific case, a case like that of Cassie and Molly and any other cases that would resemble those. So how have your colleagues reacted to this and the media coverage that's surrounding it?
Sure. I mean, at this point, it's still fairly fresh and new, and I've sent out backgrounders and questions and answers, and I believe that with these additional sentence, potential for harming a child while committing an offense against a woman or killing a preborn child while committing offense against a woman, knowing she is pregnant, are valid and pointed offenses that should be there in our criminal code.
And has it helped people's fears at all that Jeff Durham is pro-choice and he's working with you as a pro-life MP, but pro-life MPs, of course, work on a wide variety of legislation, and just because you hold a specific view on abortion, it doesn't mean that that relates directly to the bill you're working on.
Well, what I would hope is that it would send a clear message of where we're both coming from, and that is from neither perspective. As a matter of fact, I get frustrated at the thought of the pro-life taking advantage of this. He gets very frustrated with the pro-choice trying to take advantage of this, and vice versa. I mean, our intent is very clear, and we are open to talking to anyone and discussing it with anyone. I've reached out to the abortion community saying, listen, we need to talk about this because choice goes beyond a woman's choice to terminate her pregnancy. It also includes her choice to have a family. And the truth of the matter is, I have many friends who have chosen abortion to terminate a pregnancy, but have also chosen to have a family. And it's that side, as women, I guess we're pretty complicated. But we have a need in our justice system to fill this gap to protect women.
How has the pro-choice community responded to your reaching out to them?
Well, I've reached out. They've definitely given some feedback on Twitter and Facebook and that type of thing, and I've just responded with, I'm here to talk, and this is what I'm saying. It is not an anti-abortion bill in any way, and that's all you can do is reach out to them and hope that they will do what I truly believe is right in regards to a woman's choice, to protect every aspect of that, and we need to do that.
So what is the future of this bill going forward? You've tabled it. What is the journey of this bill from now?
Well, it would face 2 hours of debate in the upcoming months. I'm hoping that debate will take place before June, and then it would basically be voted on second reading. The way the system works is there's, I think, 30 bills, and the first 10 go before the House, and there's only certain allotments of time to debate, so each one gets an hour, and then you go through the cycle again. So it does take some time, but I'm hoping that it will be debated in the House before the end of June.
What sort of support do you expect from the bill? So from the media, there's conservative MPs who say, yeah, sounds great, I'm going to vote for it. Other ones who are saying, we don't like the fact that some people might take advantage of this to bring up other issues. And then, of course, you've got the NDP and the Liberals, which are anyone's guess. But you can assume that they probably wouldn't vote for a conservative private member's bill. What is your hope in terms of who will vote for this?
Well, it's my job to reach out, and I understand there's a number of NDP members of Parliament in Jeff's area who he has reached out to over and over again, and they have expressed, some sympathy and support recently. So that's very good to hear. And within the Liberal Party, I'm aware of individuals who I believe would support this. We have a circumstance here where, as a private member's bill, we're not representing our parties. We're representing something that is very dear to our own hearts. That's why we go for these types of things, and we have this wonderful opportunity in Parliament is to express something as an individual member of Parliament. And within our party, I know that we get to vote our conscience on this. I would hope that would be the same in the other parties. I know that, we haven't had one of our bills come forward that was allowed to go to vote of conscience within the Liberal Party. If that was the case, then I can't imagine it not being the case here. It would be counterintuitive, but that being said, and I mean, the truth of the matter is, it is not a pro-life or a pro-choice bill, and it's my job, to make it very clear and to gain their support that this is something that unfortunately I think is left in the rubble.
Right.
That shouldn't be because of those other issues. And, we have the presence of mind and we have the responsibility to do what's right. And I believe that's the case here.
But when Ken Epp put forward the Unborn Victims of Crime Act, something quite similar, I believe the Conservative Party officially supported that law. So does that make you hopeful that the Conservatives, at least, will support your bill, considering the fact that there was official party support for something similar a few years ago?
Sure. I would hope so. But again, it's a private member's bill, so the responsibility, the onus is on me to build those relationships and make sure that we're on the same page. I don't know that I'll have 100% support. It's not a whipped vote, so, we have that freedom. And within the Conservative Party, quite honestly, I think that a lot of issues are debated far better and far broadly than in the other parties. We have, that's one of the things I love is the open tent that we do have in this regard. So there's a lot of conversation going on in regards to a number of issues, and that's healthy. That's good.
So one final question. It's probably going to be difficult for you to extract this from the pro-choice, pro-life divide simply because the pro-choice crowd will say, we're talking about a preborn baby anyways, so regardless of whether or not this bill goes anywhere close to the legality of abortion, which it obviously doesn't, the pro-choice crowd doesn't want to discuss the entity in the womb, period. And on the pro-life side, of course, it's been a very long time since there was any piece of legislation that dealt with the baby in the womb in any way at all, regardless of whether or not this bill approaches abortion. So both sides are going to take advantage of this simply because the pro-life side is going to say, hey, somebody's talking about the babies in the womb, and the pro-choice movement's going to say the exact same thing but view that negatively. So how are you going to extract this?
Basically in the way that I've presented it, because we've made it so clear that it doesn't change the definition of a human being. Preborn is a term that to me refers to anticipation. This is an individual, a woman who is choosing to have a child. We all have families. We know what that anticipation is all about. So in my bill, I've made it really clear that this is offenses that only apply when a criminal attacks a woman that he knows is pregnant, and there's a criminal offense there against her. That is job one. And then these additional offenses would be applied if there was harm or death to the child in her womb that she was carrying. You know, we can't pretend. We have to be real about family in Canada and the importance of family in Canada. And it protects a woman's choice to carry her child, and it protects her from this type of crime that happens when an individual outside of herself is trying to terminate her pregnancy or, you know, is in disagreement with her. So we have, I think, a responsibility as legislators and as within our criminal law and our courts to say, you know what, we value this. It's standalone and it deserves to have the support of Canadians.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Well, I appreciate it, John. Thanks so
All
much.
Right. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Member of Parliament Cathay Wagantall talking to us about Cassie and Molly's Law, which is Bill C-225, for anyone who wants to look it up. Anyone who wants more information on the campaign, wants to take a look at it, wants to get it involved somehow, go to mollymatters.org, mollymatters.org, or go to weneedalaw.ca. That's weneedalaw.ca. And you can take a look. You can sign petitions that urge people to pass this piece of legislation. I myself actually take MP Wagantall at her word when she says this isn't a pro-life motion. I think that this bill is actually the perfect encapsulation of what the abortion debate in Canada is like right now. And that's pro-choice people refusing to admit that human beings begin their lives before they fully exit the birth canal, and pro-lifers and pro-life politicians so desperate to avoid talking about abortion that they're willing to play all kinds of games of legal twister in order to ensure that no one can accuse them that they're reopening the abortion debate. So I don't know if Jeff Durham, I don't know if the Molly Matters campaign or MP Wagantall actually thought they could dodge the accusation of trying to reopen the abortion debate, but they certainly should have known that. Because at the end of the day, anything that discusses a baby in the womb at this point in Canada is going to be labeled an abortion motion, an abortion law, an abortion debate, even though I don't think this law is a particularly pro-life law. I think it does address just a couple of specific criminal circumstances, and at the end of the day, it won't impact abortion in Canada whatsoever. But at the end of the day, this is the country we live in right now, and this should all just give us a lot more motivation to start conversations wherever we can about this issue so that we can start having a reasonable discussion about the abortion issue one day in our country. We can only hope. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to catch this show online later on, go to thebridgehead.ca or check out The Bridgehead on SoundCloud or YouTube. So thanks for listening. Hope you have a great weekend and hope you tune in again next week.